My name is Thomas, and my twin brother's name is Robert. When the phone rang at 2:47 inches the morning, I knew something was terribly wrong. Robert and I might live 2 provinces apart, but we've always had that connection identical twins share. I fumbled for my phone in the darkness of my Vancouver bedroom, my wife, Margaret, stirring beside me. "Tommy?" Robert's voice came through, shaking, using the childhood nickname only he was allowed to use. I need to tell you something." The background noise caught my attention first. A door slamming, a woman's sharp voice saying something I couldn't quite make out. Then Robert's voice again, quieter, almost whispering. "I can't talk long. They'll hear me. But Tommy, I'm scared. Michael and Jessica, they're not who I thought they were." My blood ran cold. Michael was Robert's only son. After Robert's wife Helen died 3 years ago, Michael had insisted his father move from his house in Edmonton to Calgary to live with him and his wife Jessica. At the time, it seemed like a blessing. Robert was lonely, grieving. We all thought Michael was being a good son. "What do you mean? Robert, what's happening?" But the line went dead. I sat there in the dark, my heart pounding. Margaret was fully awake now, her hand on my shoulder. "Tom, what is it?" I tried calling back. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again. And again. Nothing. "I'm going to Calgary," I said, already getting out of bed. Margaret didn't argue. 43 years of marriage, and she knew that tone in my voice. She got up too, helping me pack a bag while I booked the first flight out at 6 a.m. On the plane, I couldn't stop thinking about that phone call. Robert's voice had sounded thin, frightened. This was a man who'd worked construction for 40 years, who'd raised a son on his own after Helen got sick. Robert didn't scare easily. I took a cab straight from the Calgary airport to Michael's house in the suburbs. It was a nice place, a 2-story colonial with a perfectly manicured lawn, the kind of house that screamed successful family. But as I stood on the doorstep, something felt wrong. The curtains were drawn despite it being midday. The flower beds looked neglected. Jessica answered the door. She was a thin woman with sharp features and hair pulled back so tight it seemed to stretch her face. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Thomas! What a surprise! We weren't expecting you. I came to see my brother. Is Robert here?" Something flickered across her face. Annoyance? Fear? Of course. He's resting. You know how he is at his age. Needs his afternoon naps. It was 1 p.m. Robert had never been a napper in his life. "I'll just go up and say hello," I said, stepping forward. Jessica moved to block me, still smiling that cold smile. "Oh, I don't think that's a good idea. He's not been feeling well. The doctor says he needs rest and quiet. Maybe you should come back another time?" "Jessica?" Michael's voice came from behind her. He appeared in the hallway, and I barely recognized my nephew. He'd gained weight, his face puffy and red, but it was his eyes that struck me, cold, calculating. "Let Uncle Thomas in. I'm sure Dad will be happy to see him." The way he said happy made my skin crawl. They led me upstairs to a small bedroom at the back of the house. It was barely furnished with just a single bed, a small dresser, and nothing else. No TV, no books, no personal items. The room was cold. Robert was sitting on the bed, and when he looked up and saw me, his eyes filled with tears. My strong, tough brother looked like he'd aged 10 years in the 6 months since I'd last visited. He was thinner, his clothes hanging off him. There was a bruise on his forearm. "Tommy," he whispered. "I'll leave you two to catch up," Michael said from the doorway. "But Dad needs his medication in an hour, so keep it short." Then he closed the door. I heard a key turn in the lock. I stared at that locked door. Then I turned to Robert. "Tell me everything." And he did. The story came out in broken sentences, shame and fear mixing in his voice. After he'd moved in 8 months ago, things had been fine at first, but then Michael had started asking about money, about Robert's pension, his savings, the house he'd sold in Edmonton. Jessica had been sweet at first, but that had changed too. They'd convinced him to sign power of attorney just in case something happened. Then they'd transferred most of his money to their accounts. When Robert questioned it, Michael had exploded. screamed at him, called him ungrateful, said he should be paying for his room and board anyway. The locked door had started 2 months ago. They said it was for his own safety, because he was getting forgetful and might wander at night. But Robert wasn't forgetful. He was being imprisoned. They controlled everything. When he ate, when he slept, whether he could use the phone. They'd taken his cell phone, saying he didn't need it. He'd only managed to call me last night because he'd found an old cordless phone in the garage when Jessica sent him to fetch something. They're planning to put me in a nursing home, Robert said, his voice breaking. I heard them talking about it last week. The cheapest one they can find. Jessica said once I'm there, they can sell this house and buy something bigger. They've already been looking at properties. I felt rage building in my chest like I'd never felt before. This was my brother, my twin. We'd shared a womb, shared a childhood, shared everything. And his own son was doing this to him? How much do they know about me? I asked. Robert looked confused. What do you mean? Have they met me? Really met me? I mean, since we've been adults? Robert thought about it. Michael knows of you, obviously. But the last time he actually saw you was, God, it must have been at Helen's funeral 3 years ago. He was so busy with arrangements. I don't think you two talked much. And Jessica's never met you at all. She couldn't make it to the funeral. I looked at my brother. We were identical twins. Same height, same build, same gray-white hair, same wrinkles in the same places. Even our voices were nearly the same. We used to fool our teachers well into high school. An idea was forming. Robert, I said slowly, how would you like to trade places for a while? His eyes widened. What? They don't really know me. We look exactly alike. You could go back to Vancouver with Margaret, rest, recover, and I could stay here and gather evidence of what they're doing. Recording, documents, everything we need to put a stop to this. Tommy, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm telling you, this is happening. I grabbed his hands. They were rough and calloused, like mine, workers' hands. But they were shaking. These people are abusing you, Robert. This is elder abuse. It's criminal. And we're going to make sure they face consequences. We spent the next hour planning. Robert told me everything about his routine, about Michael and Jessica's schedules, about where things were in the house. I memorized it all. That evening, when Michael and Jessica were both downstairs watching TV, Robert and I made the switch. We traded clothes. I gave him my jacket, my wallet, my phone. He slipped out through the bedroom window onto the garage roof we used to play on as kids, then down the trellis. I'd parked my rental car around the corner. Margaret was waiting there, and she would drive Robert to the airport for the last flight back to Vancouver. I lay down on Robert's bed in his clothes, in his cold little prison cell of a room, and I waited. Around 8 p.m., I heard footsteps on the stairs. Jessica opened the door without knocking. She was carrying a tray with what looked like dinner, a small bowl of soup and a piece of bread. "Here's your dinner, Dad," she said, not even looking at me. She set the tray on the dresser and turned to leave. "Thank you, Jessica," I said, using Robert's slightly raspier voice. She paused, glanced back. For a moment, I thought she'd noticed something. But then she just nodded and left, locking the door behind her again. I looked at the dinner. The soup was watery, barely any vegetables or meat. The bread was stale. This was what they fed him? A man who'd worked his whole life, who'd raised their husband, father, who deserved respect and care. I pulled out my phone, the one I'd kept hidden in my sock. I took a photo of the meal, photo of the locked door from the inside, photo of the sparse room. This was evidence item number 1. I didn't sleep much that night. I spent hours searching through the small dresser, finding Robert's documents hidden under his clothes, bank statements showing transfers I knew he hadn't authorized, a power of attorney document I was pretty sure he'd signed under duress, letters from a nursing home, the cheapest place in Calgary, with a monthly cost that was a fraction of what a decent facility charged. I took photos of everything. The next morning, Jessica unlocked the door at 7 a.m. sharp. "Time for breakfast, Dad. Come on." I shuffled out, playing the part of the cowed, defeated Robert they expected. In the kitchen, Michael was already at the table eating eggs and bacon. Jessica poured me a bowl of plain oatmeal. That's all you're having? I asked, looking at Michael's full plate. You don't need as much food at your age, Jessica said curtly. Doctor says you should be eating less anyway. Your cholesterol. Robert had perfect cholesterol. I'd seen his recent medical records in that dresser. Sit down and eat your oatmeal, Michael said without looking up from his phone. I sat. I ate the bland, unseasoned oatmeal, and I watched them. Over the next several days, I documented everything. The inadequate meals, the locked door at night, the way they spoke to me like I was a burden, an inconvenience. Jessica going through my wallet and taking cash. Michael discussing my pension check like it was his money. But I also started pushing back. Little things at first. When Jessica told me to go clean the garage, I looked her straight in the eye and said, "That's not really necessary today, is it? I think I'll sit in the living room instead." Her mouth fell open. The old Robert never said no. "Excuse me?" she said. I said I'll sit in the living room. I'd like to watch some television. "You don't tell me what you're doing in my house," she snapped. "Actually," I said calmly, "I believe Robert's pension has been paying a good portion of the mortgage on your house, so it's his house too." Her face went red. "Michael!" Michael came running. "What's going on? Your father is being difficult." Michael turned to me, his face darkening. "Dad, you need to do what Jessica tells you. We've talked about this. You're living here out of the goodness of our hearts." "The goodness of your hearts?" I let some of my real anger seep into my voice. "Is that what we're calling it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks more like you've stolen my money, locked me in a room like a prisoner, and treated me like garbage." I'd never seen Michael look so shocked. Then the shock turned to rage. "How dare you? After everything we've done for you. We took you in. We feed you. We put a roof over your head. You took my money. You forged my signature on bank transfers. You isolated me from my family." Each word was deliberate, loud enough that my phone, hidden in my shirt pocket and set to record, would pick up every word. "We did no such thing," Jessica said, but her voice wavered. "Really? Then you won't mind if I call my brother Thomas? Ask him to look into my finances?" "You're being paranoid," Michael said. "This is exactly why we need to look into memory care for you. You're clearly not thinking straight." "My memory is perfect. I remember every transfer you made, every document you had me sign, every lie you told me." Michael took a step toward me, his fists clenched. For a moment, I thought he might actually hit me. I almost wanted him to. Assault would make the case even stronger. But Jessica grabbed his arm. "Don't. Not worth it." They left me standing there in the kitchen. I heard them go upstairs, their voices raised in argument. I couldn't make out all the words, but I caught enough. "Getting suspicious. Might tell Thomas. Need to move faster. Nursing home next week." I had all I needed. That night, I made my move. After they locked me in the bedroom, I waited until 11 p.m., when I knew they'd be asleep. I'd already unlocked the window earlier when Jessica wasn't looking. I climbed out, down the trellis, and walked to the 24-hour cafe 3 blocks away. I called the police from there. Then I called my lawyer friend David back in Vancouver. Then I called Robert. "It's time," I said. By 2 a.m., I was sitting in the Calgary police station with 2 officers, showing them everything: the photos, the recordings, the bank statements, the power of attorney I suspected was obtained under duress, the inadequate food, the locked door, the bruises on Robert's arms that I'd photographed before we switched. The officers listened to everything, their expressions growing darker. "This is textbook elder abuse," one of them said. "Financial exploitation, confinement, neglect, emotional abuse. This is serious." "Can you help my brother?" I asked. "We'll be paying Michael and Jessica a visit first thing tomorrow morning. In the meantime, your brother should not return to that house. Does he have somewhere safe to stay?" "He's with me in Vancouver. He's safe." The next morning, I went back to Michael's house with 2 police officers. Michael answered the door in his bathrobe, clearly having just woken up. His face went white when he saw the uniforms. "Michael Patterson?" one officer said. "Yes? We have some questions about your treatment of your father, Robert Patterson. May we come in?" I watched as Michael's world fell apart. Jessica came down the stairs, saw me standing there with the police, and I saw the exact moment she realized who I actually was. "You're not Robert," she whispered. "No," I said. "I'm Thomas, his twin brother, and you've made a very big mistake." The investigation moved quickly once it started. With the evidence I'd gathered, plus Robert's testimony once he was ready to give it, the case was airtight. Michael and Jessica had stolen over $200,000 from Robert over 8 months. They'd forged documents. They'd imprisoned him. They'd neglected him to the point where his doctor confirmed he'd lost 15 pounds he couldn't afford to lose. They were charged with financial exploitation of an elderly person, unlawful confinement, and fraud. The legal proceedings took months, but eventually, Michael pled guilty to avoid trial. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison and ordered to repay every cent he'd stolen, plus damages. Jessica got 2 years and a restraining order, keeping her from contact with Robert. Robert never went back to Calgary. He moved in with Margaret and me in Vancouver. We converted the downstairs den into a bedroom for him, put in an ensuite bathroom, made it comfortable. He's been with us for 8 months now, and every day I see more of the old Robert coming back. He's gained weight. He's smiling again. He's even started dating a widow from Margaret's book club. Last week, we got a letter from Michael, written from prison. It was an apology, or an attempt at one. He claimed he'd been stressed about money, that Jessica had pushed him into it, that he never meant for things to go so far. Robert read it once, and then put it in the recycling bin. "Some things can't be forgiven," he said quietly. "He wasn't just stealing money from me, Tommy. He was stealing my dignity, my freedom, my last years." I put my hand on my brother's shoulder. We stood there looking out the window at the Vancouver rain, 2 identical old men who'd been through hell and come out the other side. "I'm sorry I didn't notice sooner," I said. "I should have visited more, should have called more." "You saved me," Robert said simply. "When I needed you most, you were there. That's what matters." Later that evening, Robert's grandson Tommy called. He was the innocent victim in all this too. A 8-year-old boy who'd lost his father to prison and didn't understand why Grandpa didn't live with them anymore. Robert had maintained contact with him through supervised visits arranged by Tommy's maternal grandmother. "Grandpa Robert," the little voice said on speakerphone, "can I come visit you in the summer? Mom's mom says she can bring me on the plane." Robert's eyes filled with tears, but they were happy tears. "Of course, buddy. Uncle Thomas and Aunt Margaret would love to meet you. We've got mountains here you can climb and the ocean to swim in." "Cool. And Grandpa, I miss you." "I miss you too, Tommy. So much." After the call ended, Robert sat quietly for a long moment. Then he looked at me and Margaret. "You know what the worst part was?" he said. "It wasn't the locked door or the stolen money or even the hunger. It was feeling like I didn't matter anymore. Like because I was old, I didn't deserve respect or love or dignity. Like I was just a burden to be managed." "You matter," Margaret said fiercely. "You've always mattered." "I know that now," Robert said. "But for a while there, they almost convinced me I didn't, that I was worthless, that I should just be grateful for whatever scraps they threw me." "Never," I said. "You're my brother, your family, and family takes care of each other." Robert smiled then, a real smile. "We sure do, Tommy. We sure do." These days, Robert volunteers at a senior center downtown. He talks to other elderly people about recognizing the signs of abuse. He shares his story, helps others find resources, connects them with lawyers and social workers. He's turned his nightmare into something purposeful. Margaret jokes that we're the 2 old men from the Muppets now, sitting on our porch making commentary on the world. And maybe we are, but we're happy, we're safe, we're together. And Michael and Jessica, they lost everything. Their house was seized to pay restitution to Robert. Their reputations are destroyed. Michael's construction business folded. Jessica couldn't find work once word got out about what she'd done. Sometimes people ask me if I feel bad about what happened to them, if I think the punishment was too harsh. I think about Robert's face that first day I saw him in that locked room. I think about the watery soup and stale bread. I think about the bruises and the fear and the months of systematic abuse. No, I don't feel bad at all. Robert deserved better. All elderly people deserve better. They built the world we live in. They raised us. They worked and sacrificed and contributed. They deserve to spend their final years in dignity, respect, and comfort, not locked in rooms and robbed by the people who should love them most. If my story can help even one person recognize the signs of elder abuse and do something about it, then it was worth it. If it can help one person understand that age doesn't diminish worth, that our elderly deserve protection and care and love, then all of it, the anger and the fear and the confrontation, was worth it. Because at the end of the day, we're all going to be old someday, and we'd all want someone to fight for us the way I fought for Robert. That's what family does. That's what love does. And I'd do it all again in a heartbeat.